Hello, and welcome to one of the first lectures I will be doing online for you to access and watch from home. The reason for this lecture today is to kind of go over the course and the kind of lay of the land of how this course is going to be structured and what the expectations are. Because I noticed a lot of people did not turn in their work last week, and I'm skeptical on whether maybe there's a misunderstanding of how the course works. So I'm going to go through the expectations and what we'll be doing in this course and kind of how I have it structured. So first of all, you're all familiar, I'm sure, with the eCampus homepage here. This is the homepage for our course, and the lab hours are listed here. And there's a couple of areas that are pretty important that I would like to point out here in the beginning, and that is the areas that you can communicate with me in. I got a lot of emails last week from many of you concerning, questions about the assignments and how to do specific things and so on. And that's fine. However, I prefer to take emails such of that nature in an open discussion forum, because chances are there's probably several other students in the class who have the same exact question you have, and they all four email me, so then I have to repeat myself 4 different times. So it's a lot easier for you to post your question in an open forum, and I go in and answer it, and then the rest of the class can read the discussion we had on the particular problem. Only email me if your questions are of a personal nature. Do not post anything personal in the open forum, because of course everyone could see it. Anything else that's related to questions related to books, materials for class, and any problems with any of the week's activities should be posted in the following areas. Under discussion here, you have a general area for general questions under Ask Your Professor. And everybody did a great job posting questions in here about specifics when they were, stuck in trying to find information or trying to view their posts and such. This is a great place for those types of questions. Also in the discussion board, I have the introductions, which a lot of you introduced yourself. Thank you. That's a fun activity. It wasn't required. It was just something that kind of gets everything started. The other important area of communication in the discussion area are these weekly problems and solutions forums. Now, I will have a weekly problems and solutions forum for each week. And what I would prefer for you to do is to post questions in these forums that relate to the activities of that week. And let me tell you, after teaching online for many years, trust me, you don't want to actually have to go into one folder and try and sift through thousands of problems and questions and answers to find the answer to something. So this helps you to search out, oh, I remember it was week 1 when I had that problem, and I posted it in the forum. You can go straight to week 1, find your name, and hopefully find the problem and solution. So if we can all get on board with posting each week to these specific forums, that will really help things greatly, as opposed to emailing me your specific questions. Notice last week we had several people posting. One thing to keep in mind about posting to these forums, we kind of got out of hand here when Corey posted a question and then multiple students posted responses to where the actual thread got much too long. And in that particular case, it's difficult for other students to get in and find the answers to their specific questions without reading the entire thread. So steer away from doing things like that. If you have a question that relates to another question a student asked, it doesn't matter if the topic is relevant or the same to the previous question, please start a new thread. It'll just make it easier on everyone. I can directly see your question come up in my alerts, and I can answer it momentarily. When you post it as a response to a response to a response, I could easily miss that if I don't drill into that thread. So again, to get answers back out to you quicker, if you can post them in this fashion, it'll help me to get to you sooner. So I kind of did that. A lot of the questions that people asked in this long, lengthy thread here, I actually posted separate threads for those answers so that the students can come straight in, click on that thread, and find out the answer. Also, when you post a thread, make the thread descriptive in the subject matter. So, like for instance, I said how to submit assignment files for grading. It basically tells you if you click on that thread, you're going to find out that information. And that'll make it easier. Instead of just more questions, then we have to drill in and we have to figure out what was the question. If you can just post the question as the subject matter, that will help a lot as well. So everybody did a great job posting questions in here. I just need to get everybody kind of on board with the proper way of doing it so that we can work efficiently in the online classroom. So those weekly problems and solution areas are pretty critical. So make sure you post in there, and only email your professor if it's a personal question of some kind. Everything else should go in the open forum for everybody to see. Okay, I'm trying to keep these videos that I post online to a half an hour because I post them on YouTube, and we really can't go any past that or else the file gets too big. So I may have to talk fast to get through all the material, just so you know. The other thing I wanted to point out was in the coursework tab is the location of all of the homework assignments. Every single week of this class, and we started last week, is set up in a separate folder. So if you click on the coursework tab and then you go into the assignment and lecture area, you'll see that I have, well, right now, I'm going to turn off the instructor view here. This is the view you're seeing. Right now, I had 5 weeks up, but I just turned off a couple weeks because I'm working on some additions to those particular weeks. So what you have available to you now is last week, which last week the only assignment you had to turn in was the lynda.com tutorials for Photoshop for web design. Okay, that was what you had to turn in, and I went over how to turn those in. I've posted a JPEG on how to set up your file, so all that should be pretty clear now. If you have any other specific questions, I recommend that you post them in the problems and solutions area. But a lot of people missed the deadline for this submission of week 1 assignment. That was due on Sunday night. Just so we kind of get all on the same page, every Sunday night will be the due date of your weekly assignments. So every Sunday night, everything that is posted in that particular week is due. So last week, I posted this one assignment for Linda, and everybody was working on getting the software availability and getting hooked up with Linda. And then last Sunday, which was, what was last Sunday? I think it was the 9th. You were to turn in, yes, I believe it was, the lynda.com tutorial exercises, and some of you got them in and some of you did not. So you're going to need to meet those deadlines because I do dock points. However, I do accept late work, so please get on what you haven't finished up for week 1 so that you don't get too far behind. You also had a reading assignment, and in the 5th week I will be giving you a quiz, a vocabulary quiz, and it'll be over a lot of these reading assignments that I assigned to you in the weeks. Okay, but other than that, that was all that was due for week 1. All right, so if you didn't get week 1 stuff in, you need to get on that and get it finished. So back out here to assignment and lectures, week 2, which is this week that we're in now, you have an additional assignment plus the Lynda to work on. So this week, here's your problems and solutions. So if you have questions, you post them there. You have a reading assignment. You'll be reading from the textbook. I have an online textbook that I've selected for you, and I actually have it here. You don't have to buy this. It's available online, and it's free. So, and it's a great textbook for this class. It's called Web Style Guide, and it's the 3rd edition. And your first 2 readings in eCampus are the Chapter 1 on process and Chapter 3 on information architecture. Okay, so that's this chapter, and these are all the sections of that chapter, and then information architecture in these sections. You'll be reading those for this discussion. Now, the way the readings are going to work is, going back here to eCampus, you do your readings, and then I will post a your name down below here, and you'll be assigned 2 questions to answer. So these are the discussion questions for week 2. There's 4 of them, and everybody has been assigned 2. So basically, you have to answer these questions after you've done your readings and post your response to the discussion. So the discussion is located here under Submit Week 2 Discussion. So you'll click here, and you'll start a thread here. You'll create a thread, and you'll call it your last name. So this is my last name, _ answer number 1. And you'll proceed to answer the question that you were given. A lot of times it's best if you come in here and copy the question and put that question down here, and then hit return, and then give me your answer down here, so that I have the question and the answer right in one post. Okay, and then once you finish your answer, you hit submit. Now, one thing I will say is sometimes if you take a while to compose your answer, the internet could drop off, you can get disconnected, you can lose your work. So what I usually tell students is to compose their questions, their answers in a data processing program like Microsoft Word or a text editor of some kind, and then paste it into this window and then submit it, and to not actually physically work in this window, because you're basically working over the internet right now, and there's no guarantee that it couldn't, get disconnected and you can lose your work. So make sure before you post that you spell check and use an external editor to compose your answers. Okay, so you'll hit submit, and that will submit your answer. I'm not going to do it. I was just giving you an example there. So back to that. You can also go to the discussion board, and you'll see also, this is another way to get to that assignment, is you can just go directly into the discussion board, and that assignment is posted here as well. And here is your name, and here are the 2 questions you've been assigned. Here is my grading rubric. So these are the things I'll be looking for as you write your responses and your answers. So basically what you're going to do here is you're going to answer 2 questions you've been assigned, and then you're going to respond to 2 of your classmates. And generally I ask that you respond to the 2 opposite questions of what you were assigned. So if you were assigned, like in this case, Kelly's assigned 1 and 3, he will answer 1 and 3, and he will respond to a student who answered 2 and 4. Okay? So in total, there's 2 answers, which should be, at least 6 sentences, at least a paragraph in length, and 2 responses, which I ask that those are about at least 3 sentences in length. So it's not a lot of writing, it's a summary. Okay, so a lengthy response or answer, it really kind of is not what I'm looking for here. I'm looking for you to get to the point in a brief summary, basically, is what I'm looking for. Okay, so that's the assignment for your readings, and we'll be doing those in week 2, week 3, week 4, and I think week 5. I'm currently writing the question sessions for those weeks right now. But this is a taster of how this is going to work with the discussion. Okay, so back to coursework here, and assignments and lectures in week 2. So in addition to your discussion, you also have another segment of Lynda tutorials to watch. Now, there was a lot of questions on lynda.com and how to actually go about executing the exercises. Some people said, well, you know, Linda was showing me something and I really didn't see that there was anything to do. Well, there's going to be videos where you're just watching. And then there will be videos where Linda actually has you open up an exercise file and they actually execute a technique, and then you stop the file or you stop the video at that point, and then you execute the technique in the local file that you're working on from home. A lot of questions came up in terms of software. In order to do the Linda, and I'm sure you probably maybe figured this out by now, any of you who have already completed your Linda from last week, you cannot do lynda.com without first buying a subscription to lynda.com. And I sent everybody an invitation, and most of you signed up except for a couple of you. Those of you who haven't, you need to get in there and get signed up. After you get signed up, you will need to have Photoshop and Dreamweaver loaded on your local machine in order for you to work on these tutorials. If you do not own those programs or have purchased a subscription to the Creative Cloud, then you will have to drive up here to Northlake College and use our labs on campus, which I've given you the lab hours in the announcements last week. So those are your options for software. And there is virtually no way you can complete this class without purchasing the software or having access to those programs. Some other programs that you may need occasionally in the class are Microsoft Word and or any kind of text editor and a data processor. If you don't have Word, there's a lot of freebies out there that you can use. You will also need Acrobat, because I have you submitting some things in the PDF format, and the only way to make PDFs is to have the Acrobat Professional version of Acrobat. You cannot make PDFs using the Reader version. A lot of students have asked me that. So just so you know, you need to have the software in order to continue in this class. And again, these two assignments that were assigned this week are due this Sunday. So we're looking at this Sunday right here, which is February 16th. Okay, so the way it's going to work is generally I will have your weekly work posted by Sunday for the following week, and you will have until the next Sunday to finish that work. So it more or less fulfills your requirement of logging into the classroom twice, because you have to log in once to find out what the work is and then log in a second time to submit the work. So that pretty much fulfills your attendance for the week, is logging in to check out what's due and then logging in to submit what's due. So you know, there shouldn't be any questions there. There were a few last week. I think we cleared all those up. So that's an overview of the two assignments. Now, a little more information on Linda. I have Linda open here. Linda, this week you'll be watching a module called Designing Websites from Photoshop to Dreamweaver. And this is a great module to watch, because this is really going to hopefully visualize for you what the whole kind of layout's going to be like in this class. You're going to be using Photoshop to create all your graphics and to put together wireframes and to create all of the visual information for your websites. So when you signed up for this class had a soft prerequisite where it was stated that you should have some Photoshop experience before you sign up for this class. And indeed, I'm calling on that experience now. So this tutorial will talk about what you're going to be doing in Photoshop, and it will also introduce you to how then we will merge those graphics that we create in Photoshop over to Dreamweaver, and how to get started with getting yourself set up in Dreamweaver, and what's involved with thinking about a web page for the very first time, and what are the areas of a web page. And again, a lot of the things that you see here in Linda, you'll also be reading about in your readings. So your readings will be backing up what you're witnessing here in Linda. Okay. Now at this point, I haven't really assigned you any a project yet, because right now the way the class is structured, and I didn't always teach this class this way, so I'm trying something new, but what we're doing is we're first going to work on our technology aptitude. So we're going to watch videos, and we're going to, produce these exercises that will hopefully hone your skills with understanding the technology. And then after we've spent, 4 weeks on that, as well as reading through all of the readings and discussing the readings in discussion boards, then we will move to actually doing a physical project where I will assign you a project, and then you will have to create a project from scratch out of what you've learned in the first 4 weeks. So I think it's going to be a little bit better of a scenario than the way I've taught it before. In the past, I've taught the class where you did the project at the same time you were doing the technology, and it was a lot of stuff that you had to kind of put your head around all at once. So I tried to break it up. Unfortunately, breaking it up, I am not able to do as many assignments with you or projects with you in the class, but we at least can probably get a better understanding of the one big project that you do. Okay, so that's kind of how the class is structured. The beginning portion, which is now the first 4 weeks, you'll be working on technology, watching the lynda.com, working on the exercises in Lynda, reading the course textbook, and discussing the different specifics of web design. And then after 4 weeks, in the 5th week, I'll pass out a project, and that's when you'll begin to execute some of the skills you've learned in the first 4 weeks. So I hate to rush this along, but I don't like to make these videos too long because I know they could put you to sleep. No, just kidding. Anyway, hopefully I've answered a lot of your questions. If you still have questions about the direction of the class, again, please post them in the problems and solutions for week 2, since we're now in week 2. And any general questions that you have, you can post those in the Ask Your Professor. And only after you've checked both those areas, if you do have a question, do you then email me directly, because a lot of people were emailing me asking me questions that I had already answered in the forums, so that lead me to believe that you guys aren't looking in the forums first before you email your professor. So please get in the habit of doing that, and it'll make it better for everybody, especially me, because I've got a lot of students this semester and a lot of people emailing me, and it's very easy for me to miss somebody's questions, and I don't want to miss anything. So anyway, happy Photoshopping and happy Dreamweavering, and I will see you next week. I'm hopefully going to be doing a lecture each week to kind of check in with you to make sure everybody's understanding what's going on for that particular week. Okay, talk to you later.